The International Parliament for Tolerance and Peace convened its 12th plenary session in Geneva, Switzerland on March the 3rd and 4th, 2025, to bring together parliamentary leaders and representatives from national and regional parliaments across all continents. Now is the preamble, reaffirming the commitment of the IPTP to fostering peace, tolerance, and international cooperation, recognizing the role of the IPTP as a legislative and diplomatic platform that unites parliamentary representatives from diverse nations to promote tolerance, conflict resolution, and global stability, aligned with the bylaws, systems, structures, and objectives of the GCTP, which uphold dialogue, parliamentary diplomacy, human dignity, sustainable development, and conflict resolution as fundamental principles, recalling the resolutions and commitments adopted in previous IPTP sessions, recognizing the adoption of the Universal Peace Charter for People and the Planet, which is the outcome of the 11th plenary session held in the Kingdom of Cambodia in November 2024, under the patronage of the President of the Senate of Cambodia and the Prime Minister, which provides a comprehensive framework for peace, security, and sustainable development, acknowledging the increasing challenges facing global peace, including armed conflicts, humanitarian crisis, environmental threats, violation of human rights, the urgent need for renewed international efforts to strengthen peace building, humanitarian responses, and sustainable development, emphasizing the importance of parliamentary engagement in global governance, the need for effective conflict resolution mechanisms, and the critical role of tolerance and mutual respect in securing sustainable and just peace, recognizing the contributions of scholars, policymakers, and international institutions in advancing research on peace, conflict prevention, and governance, encouraging continued scholarly contributions, publications, and policy recommendations that reinforce the principles of tolerance, peace, and human solidarity, declares the following resolution as the outcome of the 12th plenary session. Commitment to the Universal Peace Charter. The IPTP reaffirms its commitment to advancing and implementing the Universal Peace Charter for People and the Planet as a global framework for tolerance, conflict prevention, climate action, and human rights. The IPTP confirms the importance of establishing strategic approaches to support, strengthen, disseminate, and implement the provisions of the Universal Peace Charter. The IPT commits to ensuring the effective implementation of the Universal Peace Charter through the following actions. Number 1, promoting awareness. Disseminating the Charter's principles among governments, parliaments, international and regional organizations, and civil society institutions. Encouraging policy integration and educational initiatives to ensure that the principles of the UPC, Universal Peace Charter, are embedded with national government frameworks. Strengthening international cooperation, collaborating with the UN, its affiliated agencies, and regional organizations to integrate the Charter's principle into global peace and stability efforts. Supporting the establishment of multilateral alliances and partnerships to facilitate the Charter's adoption and effective implementation. Enhancing parliamentary engagement through joint mechanisms among national and regional parliaments to foster peaceful and sustainable resolution to conflicts, strengthen social justice, and promote sustainable development. Encouraging legislative initiatives and policy reforms that align with the UPC, particularly in conflict prevention, mediation, and good governance. Encouraging the global adoption. Advocating for states to endorse and formally adopt the UPC as a framework for multilateral cooperation, engaging with international institutions, intergovernmental bodies, and NGOs to advance legislative and diplomatic strategy that uphold the Charter's principles. To ensure effective implementation and accountability, the IPTP establishes committees that will report annually on the progress, challenges, impact related to the Charter's adoption and application. Number 2, addressing crises around the globe. The IPTP reaffirms its commitment to supporting humanitarian relief, peace processes, and conflict resolution efforts in the world, with particular attention to Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, Lebanon, Syria, Congo, Rwanda, as well as the challenges in Latin America. On Ukraine, we urge an immediate humanitarian ceasefire to protect civilians, allow for the reconstruction of critical infrastructure, and create conditions for the safe return of displaced families. Furthermore, we call for intensified diplomatic efforts to reach a comprehensive agreement that upholds national sovereignty, protects human rights, and adheres to international law. To avoid the future expanding of the conflict regionally, the international community must take responsibility, not only by providing humanitarian aid, but also by fostering serious negotiations that can bring this war to an end. We cannot allow this conflict to become a permanent reality.
Yes.
We must not remain trapped in a cycle of escalation that serves only to extend suffering. Gaza. The IPTP strongly supports the current ceasefire in Gaza and stresses the urgency of completing all phases for a comprehensive cessation of hostilities. It reaffirms that the peace process between Palestinians and Israelis remains the only viable solution for Middle East stability and urges full implementation of the two-state solution in line with international law and United Nations resolutions. The IPTP emphasizes the immediate necessity of humanitarian aid to Gaza and calls for accelerated reconstruction efforts to restore security, stability, and dignified life for its people. Yes. Sudan. The IPTP expresses grave concern over the ongoing violence in Sudan, particularly for civilian casualties, forced displacement, and targeting of humanitarian convoys. It calls for an immediate cessation of hostilities and guarantees for unhindered humanitarian access, particularly for medical and essential relief efforts. The IPTP urges the formation of a transitional government comprising political and civil forces, ensuring a democratic transition free from military intervention in governance. Lebanon and Syria. The IPTP acknowledges the critical challenges facing Lebanon and Syria and affirms its commitment to supporting their stability and development. The conflict in the Great Lakes region, the escalating conflict between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo threatens to destabilize the entire Great Lakes region. We cannot ignore the suffering of innocent civilians caught in this conflict. The attacks on communities, the displacement of families, and the disruption of essential services must end. Humanitarian aid must reach those in need without obstruction, and all parties must respect international law to prevent further atrocity. We call for an immediate cessation of hostilities and the withdrawal of all armed groups from Congolese territory. Diplomatic engagement must replace military escalation. Latin America. Peace is a common principle and value of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, which in 2014 proclaimed the region as a zone of peace, an expression of the commitment of the states of the region to maintain this course in their international behavior, as well as to promote relations of friendship and cooperation among themselves and with other nations, regardless of the differences between their political, economic, and social systems, or the levels of development, and to practice tolerance and live in peace. Understanding peace as a supreme good for its people, its preservation is a substantial element for regional integration and sustainable development. This horizon includes commitments to democracy, the promotion, protection, and respect of human rights, non-intervention in the internal affairs of states, and the defense of sovereignty. Peace in Latin America and the Caribbean faces challenges arising from deep social inequalities, migratory flows that result from them, the policies to manage them, arms and drug trafficking associated with organized crime, and its growth in some countries, extra-regional military presence, the climate crisis that challenges the well-being, its governance and development. To ensure sustained engagement and follow-up on these matters, the IPTP establishes a specialized committee dedicated to monitoring these developments. A second specialized committee will be formed tasked to follow up activities regarding the Universal Peace Charter. The IPTP gives its full support for the Global Initiative for Peace Education, a troika between the United Nations, IPU, and the IPTP, devoted to teaching the future generation of leaders on the values, expertise, and knowledge of establishing and preserving tolerance and peace worldwide.
Excellent.
The IPTP remains steadfast in the mission to shape a peaceful and sustainable future for coming generations, ensuring that tolerance and peace must remain central to international governance and policy making. Geneva, 4th of March 2020.
Very good. Adopted.